Can we talk for a minute about our Integrating Heart and Mind workshop?
Absolutely. I'm excited. It's coming up in the fall of 2024.
I'm so excited. We changed the format to make it more accessible to people with like work schedules and personal schedules. And so this time we're going to do it 3 hours on a Friday afternoon or evening, depending on where you're at, and 5 hours on Saturday for 2 different weeks in September.
Yeah, it's so great. Like if you're finding yourself stuck in like sticky bad patterns or having communication issues or something like that, or if you want to just like get closer and trust yourself or your partner more, this is the workshop for you.
Yeah, and individuals are welcome, couples are welcome. If you're interested in really thinking through how to serve yourself well inside of your relationships, then we've built a workshop that will support you in finding the ways that are just right for you.
To sign up, head over to our website at whydoesmypartner.com/events.
We hope you'll join us. Welcome to the Why Doesn't My Partner podcast.
I'm Jules.
I'm Vickey.
And I'm Rebecca. We're your hosts. We're also couples therapists and messy humans bumbling through our own relationships every day.
We met through our training and practice of relational life therapy. Between us, we have more than 40 years of experience holding hard relational questions with our clients. We're going to bring those questions here.
And together, we're going to take a stab at answering those questions. This podcast is not a substitute for therapy. If something you hear in this episode stirs something deep within you about your relationship, reach out to a couples therapist in your area.
We also love to hear your questions, so don't forget to go over to whydoesmypartner.com and leave us a question of your own. Here's today's question. Today's question is, why does my partner want to open our relationship?
This is a big question.
It's a really big question. And it could have a lot of answers.
I mean, on the surface, we could say they want to do that because they are looking for sex with other people and they don't want to say no to that. It's because
it could be that.
Thank you.
It could be that. It could also be that there's thoughts or feelings that they have real strong beliefs around how they see relationship. And that relationship doesn't just have to be between two people. Maybe that in some ways complicates things, or in other ways,
or restricts things. For some people, it's about freedom and freedom, longing for freedom being such a deep value system that they're willing to work through jealousy or fear rather than compromise freedom.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So like, here's one way I think about this. I think I remember a long time ago, I was in a consultation group and one of the people in the group said, wait a second. And this was a person who had never really done a lot of work with open relationships and stuff. She said, wait a second. Isn't this open relationship thing just a strategy? And I said, yeah, it is. Sure. But so is monogamy. Look, they solve for different problems. Monogamy is going to solve for some of the fear and some of the jealousy stuff. If you're actually monogamous and you really want monogamy, you don't have to worry about the loyalty. If you really are both on the same page, it really solves for that. And it solves for some stability needs being met. Whereas
I just want to throw in a word there.
Yeah.
I think it solves for some perceived stability needs being met. I think there's a lot of perceptions inside of monogamy, and it's like
it depends on
shortcut to not having certain conversations.
It can
that you
be
have to have in open relationships.
Yeah,
sure.
It can
I would
be.
agree with that. Okay.
I think it depends on what kind of monogamous agreement you have.
Sorry. I'm just laughing because I'm realizing I don't want to have those conversations, and I'm in a monogamous relationship. So exactly.
And now
so I don't have
you get to have a skip. free pass. And it depends too on what kind of monogamous relationship you have, because I think we can have long discussions and deep discussions about the importance of stability for us, or about the importance of safety, sexual or emotional. We can talk about, I don't want jealousy to be part of our world. And we both really want those same things. And so monogamy is a great strategy for our relationship. For other people, they are solving for freedom, and they're solving for adventure, and they're solving for seeking systems, right? But they're not solving so much for the jealousy and the fear stuff. And they have to talk very clearly with each other if it's going to work well.
In multiple systems, because it's not just two people talking. We're now having 3 or however many people talking, right?
You have to be so deeply clear. If you want a lower communication like situation, go for monogamy.
Yeah,
right.
It's so much less complicated, isn't it? Like,
no. Here's the thing. I think this is the thing. Non-monogamy, consensual non-monogamy, isn't complicated when it is done with intention and consciousness by all parties, because then there's a clarity that comes around what our agreements are. What is the context for our relationship? We're thinking it through in a lot of different ways, and we're all on the same page and making agreements about it. And in a lot of monogamous relationships, we never have those conversations about the agreements of our relationships. And that is where couples come into our offices in trouble, because they're not having conversations around that. So on one level, it's easier, quote unquote, easier, because we're not thinking about having those conversations. So there's no upfront work. On the other hand, there's a lot of upfront work, and it's preventing a lot of the later issues. Now that's consider if it's consensual non-monogamy done in this way where we're really thinking about it. Some people move towards open relationships or non-monogamous relationships without all that work, because they're trying to bypass some kind of conventional rules of, right? And that is different. That's not what we're talking about.
Well, and sometimes I think people want to open relationships because they're trying to fix the relationship they have without talking about it.
Yes.
So And by the way, if you're a caller who called in with this question, and you're on the receiving end of this, and you know in your heart of hearts that is a deal breaker for you, do not let yourself get pushed into this. That is not okay.
Exactly. I think that's where my mind is of like, it's so not part of my world that like when I hear this, I bristle. And so I just want that caller, as you just said, if you're bristling, look into that and be okay with yourself saying no. If you're okay with it, then that's a whole different, that's what this conversation is. And that's okay. If you're not, that's okay too.
It's also okay if your answer is a maybe.
Sure.
But I think if it is, I want to encourage you to pump the brakes like crazy. Because going slow, if you're going to open your relationship, I work with poly families, I work with pods, I work with open systems, I work with primary partnerships plus openness, I work with non-primary partnerships with completely open dynamics. I have a lot of different people in my office who are in this spectrum. When I see it work well, the communication level is incredibly high. So the frequency, the depth of communication is really high. And moving from a closed to an open is done incredibly slowly.
Incredibly
slowly. So if somebody's saying, okay, I'm fine with trying this, but I want to make sure if you go on a date that nothing sexual happens yet, including kissing, then okay, we can do that, and you want to honor that boundary. Or, yeah, that feels okay, and I don't, kissing's fine, but I don't want anything to happen without clothes on. So we want to be really, really clear with each other about what feels like a boundary violation to us and what does not, because it's totally possible to cheat or to have a boundary violation inside of an open relationship.
I think one of the big pieces is, as you go, if you're somebody who's considering this, are you going into it with a primary relationship, or are all relationships equal? If you're going in with a primary relationship, right, there's a lot of different components about thinking about it. And I'm going to do something in this episode that we don't do very often. I'm going to drop some resources for folks, because I think this is a bigger conversation than we can just have in these little short bursts that we try to do. So if this is something that you're looking for, if you are curious about open relationships or open monogamy or consensual non-monogamy, one of the books that I would recommend for you to take a look at is Tammy Nelson's Open Monogamy. It is a wonderful book, and it guides you through how to co-create your ideal relationship. It doesn't tell you what to do, but it guides you through the thoughts and the conversations that you should be having with your partner. The other book that I might recommend is Polysecure.
I love that one.
I've actually heard of both of these.
Yeah. So Polysecure by Jessica Fern is the other one, which is really going to talk also about like our attachment systems and why we're seeking beings. And it talks about it from another angle. And I think both are really important books for you to take a look at if this is something that you're considering.
Another thing I would say as far as resources go, and is a classic one that's been around for a while, is one called The Ethical Slut.
Yes.
And I would highly recommend that one, because it has a lot of good ground rules, how to set up boundaries, how to have these conversations. It's a classic. It's been around for many, many years. And so it's still in print for good reason. But I think we've gotten a little bit away as we're supporting people who are maybe wanting to go here. I think we've gotten a little away from the source question, which is, wait a second, what does my partner want to do this? Because if you're asking that question, I'm assuming your partner has come to you and asked you, or been contemplating, or been talking about this. Yeah.
You did originally answer that though, Jules. I was thinking that your first answers were, it could be freedom, it could be this, it could be this. And then where we went to was, where we go a lot on here, by the way, curious conversations.
It's curious conversations. So one, I can't totally answer that because there's so many different reasons it might be happening. But what I would say is, if the answer turns out to be, and you could even share this episode with your partner, if you're having this conversation, we could listen to it together and we could really make a U-turn into ourselves. If I'm longing for an open relationship, is there something going on in my current partnership that I'm hoping would be fixed by doing this? If that is the answer, I would go back to the table and work on working out whatever the issue is prior to opening the relationship.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I don't think opening a relationship is going to be a good solution for a problem inside of the relationship. In general, that does not work. I'm not saying it would never work, because who am I and what do I know? But generally, that doesn't work. If it's more like, oh, this is the kind of relationship that really feels at home in my skin, then I want your partner to know that. And that's important information about you. And maybe it's a deal breaker level problem. I don't know. I'm thinking of a couple I worked with who they both actually did want open relationship, and he wanted things to move a little faster than she did. And they already had an open system, actually. And one of the things I was working to support was for him to slow down and honor her process around it, because there was a longing for things to move a little bit faster, I think, than she was comfortable with. But the truth was, if it wasn't actually going to happen, it was a deal breaker level problem for him. And I wanted him to be very clear about that, and for us to honor that, and that it was about moving in that direction. Because he wasn't going to be able to stay if this couldn't be part of it. And so it was about like honoring both sides. Of moving towards that, but moving at a pace that felt okay for everybody.
Yeah. I'm realizing why I bristle with this question.
Oh, I love this. Yeah.
And it's not the answer you both think. Oh, well, story in my head. But so there's that.
Oh, I have no idea.
I'm so curious.
And I have to talk around it first. I know that there are all on like non-binary, fluid men, women, whatever, who all would be open to this. I get that. this question to me resonates as the person asking doesn't, and I'm just feeling coercion. And that it's, and so I'm feeling, story in my own head, I'm feeling defensive and protective of the asker, of like, it doesn't feel matched to me. This doesn't sound like it's someone who wants it and my partner wants it. And so I think I have this weird story in my head of like, well, this is how those relationships do work, because both all the partners involved want it.
Right.
So that's your, I'm not a fan of it, but it works for you and I'm not judging you.
Right.
I don't hear that in this question. And that's why I feel very like, because I don't want someone to give into this if they don't want to.
Oh God, no.
That's where I'm at. That's why I'm like, but it took me a while to figure it out of like, I don't hear everyone involved being willing.
So for you, it's not about, is it good to have an open relationship? Is it good to have a close relationship? That's actually not a problem. Both could be potentially good. But well, you said you don't judge it. So I'm going to say, then I'm going to
I don't judge it.
lay down.
For other people, for yourself, you might have strong feelings about what way you lean.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I get it. You have really strong feelings. You do not want this to be part of your life.
Correct.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be, right? But what the real issue for you on this is coercion.
Yeah.
Because there's no space for connection and coercion.
Thank you. And that's what I hear in the question. So again, that's the story in my head, but that's what I hear in the question.
Right.
So I'm making that up.
I'm going to repeat that for everyone listening again, what Jules just said. There's no space for connection in coercion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you have coercion of any kind, your connection is gone. You can just know that right now. So if you're the person asking and you're trying to get this to happen, you are being coercive. Slow your roll and go vulnerable and talk about why this is important to you. And then see what happens. And then get clear if it's a deal breaker level problem for you. And then see what happens.
And if that's the case, I'm still going to go back to those earlier recommendations we made, those 3 books. Because they're going to help you have a format for how to have these conversations that maybe you've never had before. And if you've never had them before, it could feel really dangerous to be entering into like unfamiliar territory.
It can give you a guide.
Yeah. So this can give you like a template, a guide. It can help you think about the things that you haven't thought about. Should I think about them? Did that make sense?
Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And if I've seen lots of people, so one, I've seen lots of people move from a closed to an open space. And of course, one partner brought it up first.
Right.
And maybe even that one partner brought it up first when the other partner had never even contemplated it before. And at first, it even felt really scary. But once they started reading literature together, actually, the partner who was asked, not the person who did the asking, ends up being the one who most wants the open relationship. I've actually seen that often.
A lot.
So it's not necessarily a coercive question, but I want us to be clear with our people that if you're being coercive around this at all, that's not a good way to go. It doesn't lead to connection.
Can I say one more thing? This is a little tangent, but I think sometimes we might hear our partner bringing up a question like this or a statement about this, and we might have some beliefs about what that could mean.
Oh, sure.
Right. And so sometimes it might feel coercive or dangerous or scary when it also could be about our own belief system and the way that our partner's curiosity or even questioning, like, would this be something you'd want to learn about with me? Right. Like, imagine that that's the question. Imagine that your partner's coming to you and you deeply care about each other. And your partner says, so I've been thinking about this. It's like, I'm noticing that my thought keeps going here. And it's something I'm curious about. Would you want to learn about it with me? Could we have these conversations?
Oh, what a beautiful way to ask it.
Right? That's not coercive. That's like, can we be in the space together?
Right.
And if I hear that and it feels threatening.
Then you probably have some stories about what this would mean, about whether or not you're chosen or what it means sexually for you or what it means romantically,
all of that.
Which is all worth exploring. And we should be exploring that before we actually move into doing something. I remember talking to a friend of mine and she said this is so brilliant. She's like, I'm playing with a little bit of openness with my partner. And so we've decided it's fine to flirt at parties with other people.
Oh, what a fun play.
Yeah.
right? Like they were really figuring out the nuance.
Careful.
How are we with this? Like, is it okay if I smile at somebody?
Yeah.
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 That's slow.
That's slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Notice this wasn't involving any kind of physical anything. It's not going on dates. It's just the idea of a little sexual excitement interaction verbally.
And I want to back it up with this one piece. In this kind of curious place where we're trying to figure out what's okay, it's really okay for us to take backsies. Like it's okay for us to go, oh, we tried that. And you know what I learned about myself? I didn't like it.
I do not like that. I do not like it when you flirt with other people. Yeah. And actually, this is not a road for me.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to leave it there for today.
Stay protected and connected.
Bye, y'all.
That wraps up this week's episode. Join us again next week for another Why Does My Partner?
We hope that you continue to listen wherever you get your audio and that you'll follow the show.
To go deeper, join us at our boot camp. You'll find the next date at whydoesmypartner.com.
Did you know you could ask us your question?
Your questions are relational gold.
Go to whydoesmypartner.com to either write in or record your question for a future episode.